Hey guys, what's going on? Jacob here. So last time we learned what SQL is and how we can create databases and tables. Now we're going to learn how to do stuff inside of those tables. Today we're going to learn how to create rows, read rows, update rows, and delete rows. The bulk of your work with SQL is going to come from what we talk about today. So let's get started. Creating rows is pretty simple, but obviously it's a pretty important part of the process. To add a row or rows, you use insert into, then the table name, values, and then the values for each row in separate parentheses. So if I was adding teams to that teams table I talked about last time, my SQL would look something like this. The values for each of the columns and each of the rows are separated by commas, and you can add as many rows to the statement as you want. You can also add values to specific columns by calling the column names after the table name like this. Reading data from tables isn't too difficult on its own. In fact, the basic syntax for getting rows is to use select, star, from, and then the table name. The star represents all of the columns inside of that table. But where this gets a little bit trickier is when we start adding filters to select what data is shown and how it's shown. So we can limit the columns that are shown by replacing star with a list of column names. So if I wanted to get the team name and the stadium name, I would run this SQL. Next, we can select what rows are shown by using the where clause. This acts basically the same as conditionals in PHP or JavaScript, except that you need to use the words and, or, and not. In addition to other logical operators from other programming languages, you can use between to get a value of a column that's in a range. You can use like to search for a pattern, mainly used in strings. And you can use in to select a value inside an array or list. Next, we can order the items however we want. To do this, we use the order by clause and then the column name to order by. And then we use either ascending or descending. You can add as many columns to an order by clause as you want. Just separate them by commas. Finally, we can limit the number of rows that are shown by using limit and then the number of items that we want to show. So if we wanted to get all of the teams in the Western Conference, our SQL would look like this. The select statement can get even more confusing when we talk about joining tables together, but don't worry, we'll talk about that later. You can also update rows with new data. This takes a little bit of work at first, but it's also really pretty simple. To update a row, we first use update and then the table name. Then we change the values for the columns that we want. Finally, we use the where clause to define what row or rows we need to change. So say a team from before moves. We can change that team's location and stadium name using this SQL. See? Pretty simple. Deleting a row is just as simple. The only SQL you need is delete from, then the table name, and then the condition or conditions to select the row or rows that will be deleted. And that's it. So if we had a team fold or get relegated and we wanted to remove it from the table, we would run this SQL. Again, it's all really pretty simple. Well, that's all for today. Next time we'll talk about table relationships so you can set your database up in the most efficient manner. In the meantime, do you have any questions over what we went over today? If so, be sure to leave them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. But until next time, good luck and happy coding.